the bandage there for his leg that's missing skin, and when wounds pop up sometimes he gets another bandage, but he's been quite good today.
Jacob was quite a surprise for his mum and me. He was born with epidermolysis bullosa, EB, and quite a severe form. We knew something was wrong as soon as he was born because he was missing skin on one leg, and it would be several weeks actually till we found out exactly what was going on. Fair to say his mum and I were pretty distraught that, that's what Jacob was going to go through. For those who don't know what epidermolysis bullosa is, it's a severe skin condition where the skin is really fragile. It doesn't really connect to the underlayers. So with the quite slight friction, the skin blisters or tears. My wife and I had never heard of this disease before Jacob was born. It is really quite rare. EB is a significantly severe condition. It can be life-threatening. They're called butterfly children, EB kids. So this is the morning routine really that sort of commences somewhat around 8 and finishes somewhat around midday. And that's every day for him. When he was a little baby, that only took an hour, actually. It now takes up to 4. And of course, he's just getting bigger. So if he gets as tall as me or taller, then I don't know what 4 hours is going to turn into. Arms up, arms up, arms up. Good boy. EB wounds have been described as similar to a third-degree burn, and so the dressing changes are intense. In particular, wounds that EB kids are born with tend to be very severe. And the dressing of these wounds is complex. The dressings are very high-tech. There's multiple stages to their application. You end up learning what dressings are for what. I think we have more than 10 types of dressings. You can see here all the templates Jacob has, which we do this for speed and efficiency so that the next person that comes along and preps the dressings knows what size to use. But because he's a growing kid, these are constantly changing. I think the wounds, they're not great, but once dressed are manageable. But during the dressing change and getting air exposure to wounds and even getting them wet and seeing him frustrated during the length of some of these dressing changes, that's really hard as a parent because he can be crying and screaming and no parent wants to see their child in pain. I hear you. I'm sorry. I've said since he was born, the biggest challenges are the dressings, his pain, and his overnights. The overnights, initially, my baby monitor told me that he woke up over 45 times in one night. I think, part of that was his first year, almost year of his life he spent with severe reflux, which apparently can be associated with this condition because of his internals being affected. That's his reflux. Jacob doesn't have a normal peg. His feeding tube goes into his first intestine, his jejunum, I think they call it, to avoid the stomach altogether, because what was happening is his constant reflux was tearing his throat and causing throat pain and even scarring. Unfortunately, with EB kids, there's a high risk of closure of the throat that then needs to be dilated. So not only was the reflux bad, but the consequence of letting reflux be reflux like it is in a normal child was kind of unacceptable. So things like letting him cry overnight a little bit to let him sleep train and so on weren't really an option. I think about 1,000 people in Australia living with it, and there are some promising treatments. There's speculation of cures within the next decade. We have multiple different specialists come in to see Jacob, from physio to OT to all sorts of specialists that come in as part of his team. And on any one day, there's a need to meet with them and for them to work with Jacob on things like eating, on things like learning to crawl and walk, which he's going to be a bit slower with. One thing I'd say about Jacob, he is a smart little child. For 1 year old, he's really intelligent. He's so happy all the time. Of course, he gets impatient with a 4-hour dressing change, but for the most part, he is a really, really happy child. Like any child, loves going on holidays, loves playing with his sister, loves getting out and about. It's surprising what these children get used to, and even I think for us, if we had that sort of damage to our body, to his skin, those sort of open wounds, I just doubt we could be half the human that Jacob is, but they get used to it, which is sad, but I don't think he's sad. I think he's a happy young child, and like any kid, just loves to get out and explore. And I think that part of it has been really nice for his mum and I to see. Yeah, he's not crawling as fast as other children would, and that stuff is obviously initially distressing, but it has become a way of his life, and it hasn't affected his happiness. I guess I'd like to end with a message to someone that's just found out that their child has EB. We feel incredibly lucky to have Jacob in our lives. He's just the happiest little child. Whilst we've been through a lot of challenges to get to where we are, we would never ever take it back. I think he's in many ways changed who we are as people and improved our lives forever. So if you are a parent and your child has been born with EB, I know it's a shock, but it's also a blessing.